Casting with Ceri Jones.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's podcast. For this week's episode, I travel up to meet my guest at Llyn Clywedog Reservoir. He doesn't actually need any introduction, as he has made a name for himself as one of the country's leading competition anglers. We have worked together for many years, on features and articles for Trout Fisherman magazine. When we talk, he chats about his achievements, his love for Clywedog, plus advice to anyone wanting to fish there. His top flies, methods, and best areas to try throughout the season. Plus, what plans are in store for visiting anglers next year, including a brand new lodge. Now this podcast is in two parts, with part 2 available to listen to next week on my Patreon page. If you enjoy this episode and not already become a Patreon, please consider supporting the channel, subscribe and become a patron. Link can be found on my page, castingwithcerijones.com. Welcome to my chat with Russell Owen. We're sitting in this warm, welcoming Portakabin now. This time next year, this will be a...
No, all being well, touching wood, we'll have our new lodge all up and running for the spring. That's the target anyway. Well, it has to be up and running.
So your job is to build this new lodge?
To get the new lodge all sorted and singing and dancing for opening day on March the 10th, 22. That's the target. And realistically, it should be there. It's we've got the structure up now, and it's just a matter of sealing up doors, windows, and getting it sort of fitted out.
What will it consist of then when it's done?
Well, the new lodge is going to be obviously a new office, a larger tackle space. We've got and a kitchen that we're hoping then to bring on, that we're able to serve some food from that for the anglers. That's the target.
That's
and
nice.
Then, because we do need to move on. We've invested over the past 6-7 years. Everything has gone back into the fishery, and we've invested back into the fishing side, and now that's brought the anglers here, and now we're able to divert a little bit. We're not putting in the fishing, but obviously at the same level as we were, but we've got a certain amount of funds that we can now push into sort of bank side facilities to improve for the anglers on bank side as much as just the boats. We've bought in the past 7 years. We've doubled the size of our fleet of boats.
What is it now? How many boats?
How many boats will there be next year? There'll be 36 boats, including the wheelie. There's a new wheelie coming on board for the spring of 22. A new wheelie boat for that. But we've got 34 15-foot Coulomb Defenders on, as well as an existing wheelie boat.
And they're all petrol engines, no?
All petrol-powered engines, yeah. So you've got full access to the whole reservoir. Yeah, that's made a difference. It's made a huge difference. When we were on, seems a long time ago, when we were on electric engines, it was only a limited amount of people that had access to their own electric engine, and it was a fair outlay for them to do that. So, you were targeting a limited amount of anglers, but now it's all anglers can come and enjoy Clywedog. That's what's made a difference. That we're operating to a wider circle, as well as we've improved the fishing. We think now it's the best or one of the best in the UK. And our reputation runs with that. The anglers have bought into that. The anglers have bought in that we're fishermen running it for fishermen, and everything is put back in, and everyone's bought into that, and that's what we see, and that's what we hear from the customers. Yeah,
even things like they say the devil's in a detail, like the jetty itself. I've never seen a jetty like that where you've got a place to just put the bow in and it's safe.
Yeah,
easy to step out.
And a lot of people do comment on that, and I have to go back and thank our forebearers in that. There was a guard of my father included, and couple of others that did the engineering on that and the design, and it was originally to stop the boats just getting knocked about in the wind and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's been modified and it's come on, and it's the safest loading of any.
Gaz has just walked in now, just been feeding his pets, have you?
Yeah, it's the safest loading of any jetty in the UK anyway, really, and and everyone that sees it comments on it. You know, it's great. You know, you feel safe getting in and out of boats.
Yeah.
You know, so it is good. Yeah.
It's strange that no one else has latched on to doing that method.
Yeah. I suppose it doesn't suit every location. It works for us. You know.
Going back to like the club itself, how long has the club been in existence?
Well, the club itself, I think it was formed probably not long after the reservoir opened, I suppose, but it was changed a few times in the early days from what I know. So I would think it was sometimes probably in the mid-70s or something like that. It was formed, the actual club itself. The lake, we've been fishing the lake since 68, I think the lake opened, because we done this right. We had a 50th anniversary in 2018. Yeah, so 50 odd years the lake. And even in my time, I've seen the lake mature. You know, the trees growing up around the lake, where it was quite a barren existence. It has.
So is it an active club as such, or is more of a business?
It is right. It's a club, yes, but it's run more as a business now. It's a non-for-profit business, so everything that's generated goes back in first and foremost. Club days is difficult, I suppose, but it's a wider club now. We operate to a wider audience, and it used to be just a local club, but it's more of a Clywedog club now, and we sort of our arms are wrapped around a lot more bigger area and wider, more people than it used to be.
You're saying that a different area. That's another thing I remember from the European Open. There'd be two categories, two prizes, one for local.
That's right.
And one for outside area.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. They used to have an outside, which I don't know, politically correct in these day and ages. I don't think it would be right. I didn't agree with it then. I was one of the outspoken ones that it shouldn't be that way. Years ago, there used to be an inside the county season ticket and an outside the county season ticket, and I didn't think that was right either. But,
Rivers do that, don't they? The Dovey, for instance.
Yeah,
I think,
a lot
I remember
of places
right.
still do that, and I don't know how that is. It just alienates some of your customers, and I think one customer is as valuable as another. So I don't know how you can differentiate really.
Does the club, the club itself, run a competitions now? I notice there's a big shield there. Do they have like an annual comp?
Not the club as such. The fishery runs the competition side of it. We've got a competition secretary, Gareth F4G Evans. He runs our competitions pretty much. Obviously.
Anything coming up over Christmas now?
Pardon?
Anything coming up over Christmas?
We've got our Fur and Feather now, which is probably when this will be aired now on the 27th, I think. But we close on the 30th of November. So it's a bit cold up here. We're 1,000 feet up. You don't want to be up here at Christmas.
No.
Only what you have to be.
It's quite surprising. Like we spent a couple of hours out there today.
Yeah.
The fish were near the surface today.
Yeah. Water temperatures are warmer now than they are in March when we open. That's the thing. Yeah, we so often forget that we're all desperate to get out in March after the winter. But I say it's warmer now than it is in March.
Yeah. And it's opening now, March the 10th.
March the 10th. It opens in 2022. Yeah.
What's the reason for 10th then?
Well, we always open on a Thursday. Okay, so it's a Thursday around that sort of date. Sometimes it can be running. We think the first is a bit. We normally sort of getting everything. It takes a week to get everything out of mothballs and get the lake stocked and things like that. So it takes a while to get up and running. So it's normally around then, 10th, 15th. Sometimes it's the 8th, 9th, but it's around those sort of dates. Yeah. Every year, yeah. We'll open on the Thursday.
Now, for somebody who haven't fished it then, like, what can they expect if you could give, like, a summary of Clywedog through the year? Like, start of the season, are there any certain areas or methods you just think, like,
Oh yeah. Early when we open in March, there's not a great deal hatching at all. In essence, for that first, I'd say for the first month. So it's the fish tend to run close to the banks. They hug that 8-foot depth and contour of the banks, and the bank anglers pretty much have the lion's share of the fish in then, because the boats, you have to drift in close to the bank, close to the shores. The open water doesn't start to produce then. So it's predominantly for that first month, from mid-March until mid-April, it's pretty much lures, blobs, anything coloured. It doesn't really matter. If it's in front of the trout's hungry, he's going to eat it in those cold water months. But then from mid-April, that's when the spring buzzer hatch starts to get underway. Temperature in the water is just starting to rise then, which triggers the hatch. And that buzzer then hatches right across the open water, and that tends to be the trigger to draw fish out across the water. Yeah. And that's when the boats start to sort of kick in and get a little bit better fishing than the banks slightly. And then once you've had that autumn buzzer, that spring buzzer hatch, then the fish are across the open water, and they're also looking at the surface, because that heralds, once the spring buzzer finishes, I would say mid-May, then that's when you start to see the early terrestrials coming on, hawthorns, cow dungs, bits and bobs of beetles, that sorts to come on, and then you're into the spring, and then corks then as you get into sort of June. Yeah, but it's this lake is predominantly terrestrial insects. Yeah. So it's coming off the bank. So fish are always, if it lands on the surface, it's food. It's a clean water. So what if it's on the surface, it's food. So that's why dry fly fishing throughout the year is very good, because the fish are looking up, and if it's on the surface, it's food. Bam, they're having it.
It was interesting when we went out earlier on to record the podcast. Out of the top 6 flies, your top 3 are dries.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I would think half the time the fish are feeding on the surface or near the surface. Yeah.
So it's only the buzzers really, which you're likely to get.
Yeah, in the water itself, there is a few shrimp about, and I have seen shrimp this year in the water. But they're smaller. They're not the size of the killer shrimp on Grafham and things. They're small shrimp, but there's only the buzzer coming out of the water as such. Everything else pretty much is coming onto the water. So the fish are on the surface looking for that.
Was it a good cork hatch this year?
This year I thought it was one of the best cork hatches we've had in many a year. Yeah, it really was. A few days.
Is it? A couple of weeks, is it?
Well, it can last about a month if the weather stays with it. But it depends. They like a bit of sun. They don't start hatching until the sun comes on them. They don't like it to go wet. They like it warm. Yeah, they're a bit finicky. They're like a woman, really.
So in effect, like when you got, the early season, the bank anglers do well.
Yeah.
And then the buzzers come on and the fish spread out into the deeper water and the open water. I guess then the bank anglers are welcoming the corks, because then
draw fish back in.
Yeah, it brings the fish back in. Like.
I think with the contours of Clywedog, it's fairly deep, fairly close in. So you'll always get fish fairly close to the side, wherever. And we stock twice a week as well. We stock beginning of the week, say Monday. We put 500 fish in, and then we stock, and we always stock within 30 yards of the shore, mainly on the popular side, where the lion's share of the bankies fish, because it's easy access. It's all within 30 yards of the car. So we put the lion's share of the fish throughout the season along that area, close to the shore. So the stockies are notorious for running shores anyway. So there are a few days that the stockies will run the shores, and then we stock again at the end of the week, maybe a Thursday, maybe a Friday, and we'll put another 500 or 1,000 in then ahead of the weekend, and again along the shore. So there's always fresh fish introduced along the shore, and that helps to keep the bank ticking over. They naturally, they'll swim. Fish have got tails; they swim all over, and they will perhaps go some across open water. But everything we can do to make sure the bank still get some fish even through the warmer months. Oh, and with every stocking, do you use the transporter there? Yeah, you do. All the fish that come out of the farm go into the transporter. We can get, depending on their size, you can get from 450 to 500 in a tank. If they're bigger, if they're like 3 pound fish, then you probably can get 450 in a tank. If they're around the 2 pound mark, you can get 500 in there. So we say we have 2 or 3 loads every week I think this year we put in 40,700, and I think we've got just over 42 for next year to go in. So yeah, it'll be a similar plan for next year.
So we went up to the spring or the summer.
Yeah.
I guess there's a bit of a lull then, like July, August.
Well, I don't know.
Or because it's deep and higher,
yeah.
the water's still cool.
We don't suffer with those high water temperatures that maybe the lowland English reservoirs do. And sort of July and August, the terrestrials, the insects are at their height, I suppose. It's midsummer. They're in the long grass. The beetles, the cork can hatch into July. There's lots of other beetles that come off then, as well as then you get daddies start. But it says anything that's crawling, shield beetles, anything that's crawling on the surface.
Yeah.
So it can go in the water. So we have a terrestrial hatch that runs right through then, and the daddies and bits and bobs will hatch even into the September, and then once you get in the middle of September, then we start the cycle again. We have an autumn buzzer hatch, which is quite rare, really. I don't think any other lakes that get an autumn buzzer hatch, but it can be very big. They're a little bit smaller than the spring buzzer, but they hatch in bigger numbers.
Yeah. What do you think, obviously, like over recent years, Welsh water in particular, one or two ignitions, but notably the Welsh waters, they've either closed or they're cutting back. What do you think is the success of Clywedog then? What's the reason for it?
Yeah, it's sad to see what Welsh water of the way they've sort of dropped trout fishing as some of their priorities. I know they're still doing it, but I know they're going to be operating short hours on some of their waters.
I was stunned when you told me about Brennig.
Yeah.
Close at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock?
You've got to be off site at 5 o'clock, yeah. Yeah, it is worrying and disappointing, really, that is the case. It is, yeah. And Llandegg the same, and so is Llyn. It is disappointing.
So maybe these people, because of those lakes are being run down then, maybe that's to your benefit.
In the short term, yes. I'd agree that we seem to be perhaps benefit from that. But in the long term, we wouldn't be, because I think that the less places there are for people to go trout fishing, the fewer number of anglers that you'll have in the end of the day. If you can see where I'm coming from. But, so if you see numbers falling, and because they'll just say, oh shit, we won't go trout fishing, we'll take up another angler sport, or we'll take up cycling, or we'll take up another sport, we'll fill our time another way, and that'll lead to even further decline in our numbers. Yes, we're benefiting at the minute, but we work hard to get our numbers here, and I know that all the privately run fisheries, they work very hard. I know that Ivor down in Draco, he works very hard there, and Ibrook, to keep his numbers up. And anglers seem to be buying in to the fisheries that are they're run by fishermen. And you see that it is something that they see, that you put that extra bit of effort in. You're able to pass on that information, and because you're fishermen yourself, they like that. We're able to extort that bit of information that perhaps they don't get from other places. Yeah.
And I think the attraction is as well, obviously in Wales we spoilt, is the surroundings. Yeah.
There's no doubt. We've got some stunning scenery at Clywedog. It's every year I'm even more surprised than before to see the change in seasons, to see it turning green. Yeah. I love the spring more than the autumn. I know this been a beautiful autumn this year. Yeah. I love it as everything is exploding into green rather than dying into brown. I prefer it the spring than the autumn myself.
The fishing tend to be better in the spring.
I like it when it's getting better.
It's coming alive.
It just because it becomes just a mass of different greens here once the spring comes into May, and you see the hawthorn blossom, and then you see the fern all start to come up and everything turn green, and it's lush. Then it really is.
I don't know if it's because after all this nonsense with COVID and that, you appreciate more. But this year, I noticed more of things. Yeah. The hawthorns and everything, and it's like it was lush and everything was in bloom this year. It was like more so.
Yeah, I think we all appreciate things a little bit more after you know, those dark times of lockdown when everyone's sort of shut in. Yeah, so I think that's.
Were you able to come here?
Yeah, we were able to come because it was essential maintenance. We had to come to look after the trout farm, you know.
I bet it was strange being here and seeing all those fish moving,
rising,
and not be able to fish them.
It was surreal. It really was. I was up here doing some, myself and Max, we're up here doing some maintenance. We were doing something with the boats, just doing something. Could have been painting the seats or something. And yeah, we were the only person within miles, and there you are, beautiful spring day. It was a late May or something like that.
Yeah. And
there's not a soul up here. Not a soul.
One thing I did notice when I passed, I was driving back I had a chat with Emily Lewis. Mm-hmm. So I drove past you just to call in, and I was shocked to see the level as low as it was.
In midsummer. Yeah.
It was about September time would have been. I don't know if it was lower than that. It would
be early September. Yeah, we've had a really dry summer, to be fair, this summer. So they draw on this obviously to top up the water levels in the Severn, and I think midsummer it went down to around 7 metres here. But say previous years, I know 2018 it went down to 10. But it only has to go cloudy up here, and it starts to fill up. You know, rainfall, and it's got a massive catchment area. And I think beginning of September it was 7 metres down, but by the end of September it was back up to about the normal level, which is about 3 metres down, which is, they like to go, the Environment Agency like to control the level, and a winter level here at the minute is 3.5 metres down, and they hold it at that level so that they can hold back, if you have a large amount of rain now in this autumn period, they can hold the water back rather than the rivers getting too flooded. And then they slowly start to fill. We go into January and February, then they start to fill the reservoir back up, and it's always full for April time.
Have you got competitions already lined up? Any dates ready for next year?
Yeah, we've put in dates already together for the 22 season. We've got. Well, we'll see. You'll see that announced soon enough. But the big dates. We've got the new airflow competition. Which is taking over from what was the old Anglian Water, Benson Hedges before that. That's the new format now. It's going to be run by Airflow, and they've got 7 heats all over the UK, and 10 teams can enter per heat. So there'll be a 70 teams maximum, and I think 20 teams will qualify. I think something like that. 20 teams will qualify for the final.
How many is in a team then?
6.
6? 6. Oh, is it? Oh, that's reasonable then.
Yeah.
So you've got a heat coming here for that?
We've got a heat coming here for the first time, yeah.
All right.
And that will be in, I think that's in June. Yeah. And that's nearly full, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's 1 or 2 spaces at most left to fill.
But this Food and Feather now, is it next week you said, is it?
Week today, yeah. Exactly.
And you say this bank and boat?
Yes. You could choose to fish on the bank or on the boat. Yeah. I think we've got categories for best bank, category for best boat, that sort of thing.
I might have a look at my diary. I might fish the first competition in about 2 years. So how did the cages come about? How long have the cages been there?
The cages, the first cages were built by the club. I think it was sort of in the mid-80s, around 85.
Oh, as long as that?
Yeah, they was all wooden cages. They were sort of hand-built locally, the guys back then. They built 5 cages, I think, back then. And they were 15-foot square cages, wooden cages with like polystyrene floats, walkways either side. And then they doubled the size of that then going forward to get more capacity. Obviously those wooden cages are going to age very quickly, so I think about 10-12 years ago probably we progressed into these PVC floating cages that are sort of the more durable and obviously looking to last last us out. They've been modified onto that now, so that the old cages have all gone, And we've got the 5 big 10 metre.
It's a great thing that you've got them in the lake, because I know from a few people who got fish farms, this time of year they don't sleep.
No.
Because the leaves. You haven't
yeah,
got acid
yeah.
at all.
I spoke with a fish farmer last week who delivered our fingerlings about leaves. He said they've got alarms, this and that to get people. You know, it is a worrying time because they say one blockage and they can lose thousands and thousands of pounds worth of fish. Yeah. But I think it's one of the makings of Clywedog, the fact that we can produce cheaper fish, which keeps our costs down, because it is the biggest cost of anything. You know, the fish and the fish food, the biggest cost to produce. You know, we can afford to put in, 40,000 fish. You know, that would cost an arm and a leg if we had to buy them from a commercial fish farm. It would obviously far more than we're producing. So we save costs there that we can use that money then to divert into other things.
And the quality shows as well, because you've got the depth of the cages there.
Yeah. It wouldn't suit every water cages. I know it wouldn't suit some of the lowland English waters. I know, because temperatures, warm temperatures in the summer would be a problem for them. Would be a problem with the welfare on the fish, with parasites and things like that. But we don't suffer with that because of the altitude we are at and the depth of water we've got here. So it's suitable for some waters and not for everyone. Yeah.
It was an eye-opener on those cages now, looking down into the water, which was outside of the nets.
Yeah.
And it's nice to think that you said you occasionally net those fish and take them up the lake to see if they would get caught. Most waters, they've got fish like that. You don't want them to stay there. You want them to be caught. You want people to see what we've got here, you know.
We moved some of them away because I think some could just live under there forever and never get caught. Yeah. But we've been doing it long enough now. But what we've found, I shouldn't give away too many trade secrets, but we if we do net some out, we don't put them straight to the transport and drive them up the lake and let them go, because experience has told us that they can get back to the cages quicker than we can.
How do you blindfold them?
Drive them around in a circle so they get lost. So what we found is that if we trap some up, we put them in with the 2 pound stockies.
Oh, yeah.
And we put them in there for long enough that they think they're a 2 pound stockie. And then when we take them up the lake,
they'll stay with them.
They act like a 2 pound stockie and they don't swim straight back to the trout farm.
Yeah.
And that's what we found works. Yeah.
I noticed, obviously we've seen them there. We've seen the blues, browns and rainbows now in the last few minutes. You've seen them. But you showed me pictures on your phone then, these spark ticks.
Yeah.
What's the story with them?
Well, we've been stocking them now a couple of years really. And this year we had more. We've had tiger trout in previous years, and they're beautiful fish. This year we got offered more spark tacks than tigers, and we said, "Well, okay, we'll give them a go." I think we had 200 spark tacks and tigers this spring, and they are such a pretty fish, and they are a good fighting fish, and we also they're very aggressive. And we operate them on a catch and release only. We ask all anglers to return them, because we pay a bit more for them, obviously, and they're a novelty fish. It's just something a bit different in the water. That's what we found. Anglers like it, but totally stunning fish. And I think out of the 200 we've put in, we've probably had 400 caught. People have put them back. They've been caught again. They're beautiful fish. Just look at our Facebook page and you'll see that.
And they stay together, you were saying as well.
Yeah, that's one thing that the fish farmer told us. He said you can spread them out what you like, but what you'll find is they'll come back together. And when we have seen that they, after we've spread them all out up on the lake, that they can shoal up again, and you'll find groups of half a dozen or 10 or even bigger shoals of them come together, and sometimes you'll have 2 at a time on your cast. Yeah, we found that. Yeah. But they've been really good value. The anglers like them. It's just something a little bit different and a bit of a novelty. Yeah. So it's something that we're going to continue into the next season. Yeah. So
the fisheries goals then for next year is the main one, I guess, is to get the building finished in time.
Yeah, get the lodge all finished. We've got to put in another sub-application in to get a toilet facility underway. That's something we didn't do with this one because we didn't want to hold the building back, the new lodge back. So it's sort of a bolt-on to that. but there's a few more sort of obstacles to overcome with that. But it's something we're actively pursuing at the moment to get that underway, and that's to be done. Yeah, so that's our goals. But we're always looking to upgrade and improve facilities all the time.
Yeah.
Sort of on the water and off the water.
So it's exciting times then, really, here then, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We're always sort of looking at the next project. We always want to improve things to make the angler experience better, whether that be the fishing. Say there's a bit of money being spent at the minute on bankside, but yeah, we're always looking forward.
You're saying about spending on banks. You mentioned this earlier on. What plans you got to do on the bank then? What are to do paths and things? Is it?
Well, no, I mean bankside as in lodge side, shore side.
Right, yeah,
shore side.
Yeah, because with bank anglers, it's not as easy place to fish, is it? There's only certain areas.
Yeah,
because
it's access on Clywedog. I say that's what I spoke about before with our stocking. It's geared to access as much as anything else. It'd be easy for us to stock, any bank, any part of the lake, but our stocking is targeted at an area that's easily accessible by the bank angler. There's I would say 2.5 miles of very, very easy access bank fishing within 30 yards of the car. And we put the lion's share of our fish along that shore so that they can be accessed by those bank anglers, But we do stock other parts of the reservoir then to help, But you say normally the banks kick on better than the boat at this time of year, but it sounds as if today it has a little bit. These bank anglers.
The bank anglers have been out today.
He said one had 8 and one had 10 up there.
Oh, was it? And where would they have been fishing then?
Up at Poplar side, up there towards Gronwyn, Poplar side. We've been telling them they've been catching from half out the Poplar side, the Christmas trees back around Rainbow Corner. But that wind today is like that, isn't it?
Oh right, yeah.
Today with a northerly wind.
So where do we be here now then? The mornings?
Here, opposite Eblid, cages around the corner here. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, she's 6 miles long. Because everyone that comes here, okay, especially this fly.
That's Eblid there then?
Yeah. This fly shop comp that we were talking about before. A lot of the English boys come in, they're going, fucking bigger than 600 acres, this is. No, it is.
600 limb. I remember that from
600 acres. It's surely bigger than that. It's bigger than Grapham. I said, no, it might be longer, but it's not bigger. But it's, it's from here to Bullagley, that's a good 15, just over 15 minutes. Yeah?
Yeah.
And it's the same to Brychevedu. Good 15 minutes in Brychevedu.
It's a good place to have the boats, isn't it?
It's halfway, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can go either way. Yeah. And that's what we do with our stocking, see. We make sure that we split the packs, like 30 boats. We don't want 30 boats, but the cages.
That's why I drove in along the Poplar side,
you came in down the Poplar side, yeah. We make sure that, we put fish down there, Bullagley, because it's great air for the boats down there, because it's big, wide open water, especially if the wind is blowing into the dam, the boats come back to drift in, so there's no crush, or if the wind's coming over, even better than they're drifting out. That can take 20 boats, no problem. And then we always put a whack of fish in Brychevedu, but they're not as successful as Bullagley.
I see one of the bays there, Carter's.
Yeah.
That's because Carter was here, wasn't he? The president. That's what they call it.
Yeah, Carter's Bay. Jimmy Carter.
Did you meet him?
Yeah. Actually, my son's doing a history project in college now, and he messaged me on Friday and he said, Russ, you met Jimmy Carter, didn't you? I said, yeah. He was over fishing. Oh, when was that? I said, well, go scratch my head a bit. And it was
30 years or more.
It was 1986.
Did he actually fish then?
Yeah.
He was a fisherman?
Yeah. Not a much of a fisherman. But, there he is there, isn't he?
What's that? Is that a club members or are they the West team or something?
Committee.
Where's his henchman then?
His security guards?
Yeah.
This side of the camera. And there's another photo here, look. Him and Mock. We didn't have, obviously, we had rowing boats back then. We weren't even down here.
Jeez. Some punt that is, isn't it?
It says there, 1986, isn't it?
Yeah.
We were
you wouldn't want to row out there now, would you?
We were up in the Gronwyn then, the boats were up there. On the Gronwyn field, just pulled up on the grass they were. That was where the mooring was then. The night before, we'd heard that there was an important guest coming to fish. So the night before, we had we'd got a load of fish, and we'd taken them up to the bay. Then it was a bay above the middle one. It was the top bay, we called it. Didn't even have a name for it back in those days. And 500 fish were deposited in this bay.
What's that? But that Gronman Bay, is it?
500 fish were deposited in this bay. Okay. Anyway, so
opposite Carter's.
Opposite Gronwyn. Opposite, because remember, it wasn't Carter's Bay back then. It was the top bay then.
Top bay, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So 500 fish were put in there, and then this very important person.
You didn't know before?
No.
Until you turned up?
No, we didn't know. No. It was all sort of hush hush for security reasons. So Mock Morgan turned up then on the day with this VIP guest, and I remember.
So you put fish in, not knowing who the VIP was?
No, but he was a VIP guest. So we put these 500 fish in this top bay. Anyway, I bunked a day off college, going to the dentist, told my lecturer. And anyway, up here we were fishing, and these station wagons all pull up now, and out comes Jimmy Carter, ex-US president, isn't it, with Mock Morgan. He was on a tour of Wales, and Mock said, well, come fishing, I'll take you to Clywedog. So we put these fish in this bay, and off they went. And Mock had suggested that we have a drift in this little bay. There was often a chance of a trout in this bay. And they went in there, and Jimmy Carter managed to snag a couple of these 500 fish that were in there. You
didn't let him know there was 500 fish?
No, didn't let on that there was plenty of them stocked a load of fish in this bay. But yeah, Jimmy Carter, he caught a couple of fish in that bay. So that's how Carter's Bay got its name, because Jimmy Carter went in there and caught a couple of fish, and I got bollocking the next day off my lecturer in college.
Saw photographs or something?
Yeah, it was on the Welsh News, I think, that Jimmy Carter had visited Wales and come fishing to Clywedog and met the local club and something. And then my lecturer the next day said, how did you get on with the dentist? I said, oh yeah. He said, oh, well, that wasn't you then, up at Clywedog with Jimmy Carter yesterday. Oh, whoops. Yeah, so I had a bollocking for that. Yeah, so that's how Carter's Bay got its name.
Wow.
Yeah, way back in 1986.
One thing I remember, one of the earliest days, we used to come up to European Open, and it was a time when it was regional rod licenses then.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember there must have been about 30 of us got done.
Because you've been on Welsh water licenses, and this is in Severn Trent.
And I remember I think we could find, this was a bit of money then, like.
Yeah,
but they must have realised, they thought, we're going to do some money today. Yeah. Didn't know it was a big competition.
It was an easy target, wasn't it? When we used to go across to Rutland, you'd have to buy an Anglian rod licence or something like that then.
Anglian water?
Yeah. You'd have to buy a rod licence for their area, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know, because you're out of the area, out of your little catchment. When it was nationalised, far better, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but those arms, I remember, it was like, you got Carters, you got, was it Cwmcoch
and
Eblyd.
Yeah.
And the Clwyd, those ones are the ones we'd always head for.
Oh yeah, the inlets would always hold fish.
And do you know what? At the weigh-in, it was like the wacky races coming down there, and there was cars overtaking everyone over the top. Remember?
Yeah.
Because you're leaving it the last minute, and then you realise
you had to be back in the car park for 4:30 or 6, whatever. Yeah, whatever it was.
And I think to myself, and then you always wanted to have that extra last cast.
Yeah.
And then you were cutting it fine and coming back. Well, I hope the winter goes well and you finish off this the building and it's on time.
Yeah, I do as well.
Well, look forward to next season. If you've enjoyed and want to listen to more exclusive content and support this channel, please consider becoming a Patreon. As a Patreon, you will get 2 extra podcast episodes. That's one every week, plus 1 bonus content every month, which could be a podcast or video. Plus, access to photography, behind the scenes, accompanying each episode, the venues, the action, the fish, and you can actually see the fly patterns. I will be also offering 10% off my shop products, whether it's signed prints or the gilly kettles. So keep me in mind for your Christmas shopping. Subscription costs from only £5 a month. That's right, just a fiver. So if you've enjoyed my podcast, please consider becoming a Patreon. Links can be found on my website, castingwithkerryjones.com, or Facebook and Instagram. And as always, tight lines and don't strike too soon.